So last recipe, and we're doing sort of a frozen treat.
Frozen treat. So focusing now more on the lactose. So lactose is a sugar that's found in dairy foods. So milk, yogurt, cheese, and sometimes lactose can actually cause, some diarrhea, gas, or bloating. And so again, this is something that everybody is different. Some people could have milk from like cow's milk, whereas other people absolutely cannot. They feel this gas, bloating, and diarrhea. So again, really everybody's different. But if you are experiencing diarrhea, this is something that you want to try to experiment about kind of limiting the amount. And so instead of using foods that have lactose, to have these lactose-free foods, you could use, there's lactose-free milk, yogurt, etc., or alternatives to dairy, such as oat milk, soy milk, almond milk, okay? These are ones that, rice milk, yes, these are ones that have no lactose. So the dessert that we're experimenting with here today is one that's lactose-free.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so this is sort of a two-parter, two recipes. First recipe is we're going to teach you how to make sort of a lactose-free, dairy-free alternative beverage. We're making oat milk today, but you can use the same template, the same concept to make cashew milk, almond milk, coconut milk. Yeah, we've done before. Same ratio, it works the exact same way. So today we're using oats. At about a cup and a half. This can easily be, again, a cup and a half of almonds, cup and a half of shredded coconut, the unsweetened shredded coconut. That'll go into a blender. Okay, and we're going to cover that with 2 times as much of hot liquid. So we're using just water simply for this. And with oats, so 2 times as much. So I've got about 3 cups. There we go. A little more. There we go. Okay. Of hot liquid. And you want to let that sit for at least 10, 20 minutes. You can do this overnight in the refrigerator as well, and it'll soften up even more. But I found with oats, 10, 20 minutes and you're pretty much good to go. Things like almonds or cashews, whole nuts, they do take a little bit longer. So at least an hour of soaking, or those ones, again, you can do in the refrigerator overnight, and they'll soften up really nicely. Coconut, there's like, you can, a couple minutes and you're good to go. If it's shredded coconut, it's really soft. So with this lid on top, this one is a warm liquid, so we do want to keep the top of the blender open slightly, and I'll just put a dishcloth over top. Stephanie's walking away. And we'll just puree it until it breaks down. Now, like I said, oats and coconut don't take much time. The nut milks just take a little bit longer. Yeah, so that's pretty good at this stage. So you can kind of see what we're working with here. And oats, it might seem kind of weird, but it has almost like this vanilla aroma to it. It's actually a pretty nice alternative. So this is something now that you can use in baking. You can use this as like a milk alternative. It doesn't taste like milk.
Could you put it in coffee or tea?
So it does not taste like milk, is what it, but you can, absolutely. It would color it like you were putting milk in there, but it would taste a little bit different. But I find it works really, really well if you're making pancakes and you need milk, or if you're making, I don't know, like some banana bread, I don't know, something else that needs milk. It works really well because you don't taste it as much. Gotcha. But it does thicken up because there's a lot of, anyone know what type of fiber in oats?
Yes,
soluble.
Your soluble fiber.
Yes.
So also, if you are experiencing diarrhea, oats are something that you want to have more of because that helps soaks up the water and slows down.
Yeah, and you'll notice that as it sits, it'll actually thicken up the liquid and gel quite a bit. So that way you can sort of play with different consistencies. If you want something a little bit thicker, then keep it at that ratio, or you might have to add a little bit of water as it sits in the fridge just to thin it out a little bit. So you would strain it at this point. If you have a cheesecloth, even better, or just a regular sieve and just push that out, especially with the nut milks, because the almonds don't completely break down. So you would want to strain that out, and then you would let that chill. And yes, did one ahead of time. So it's hard to see, but it is much thicker as it sits, because that soluble fiber is like absorbing slowly more and more liquid, which is perfect for making our version of an ice cream. All right, so this is recipe part 2.
Yeah.
The better parts, I guess. So we're making, this is sort of a quick sort of frozen treat. I called it ice cream. Stephanie doesn't like me calling it ice cream. I guess because there's no cream in it. Fair enough.
Dessert treat, frozen.
Yeah, frozen oat cream doesn't sound tasty. So we're going to use whatever liquid that you would use here. Okay, so we're using oat milk, but you can swap this in for an almond milk, or if you're okay with dairy, then use your cow milk.
Yeah.
So you need to use a food processor for this, not a blender?
So you can use a blender. You would just need a little bit more liquid. The food processor has a wider base, so I don't need as much liquid. So it has more of that sort of soft serve state as I'm done. But you can definitely do it in a blender. You just need to let it sit in the freezer for longer. That's all.
The other thing is that different dairy foods have different amounts of lactose. So, for example, cow's milk will have the most. So for 1 cup, it's about 12 grams of lactose, whereas goat's milk has maybe 10 grams per cup. Yogurt has less than that, maybe 7 grams. Any type of hard cheeses or aged cheese, so like a Parmesan or an aged cheddar, these will have even less lactose. So again, it kind of depends on where you're at. You'll have to record and experiment for yourself. But generally speaking, I find that a lot of people who say that they get gassy or bloating or even experience diarrhea from dairy foods, when they have these hard or aged cheeses or even yogurt, it's not as bad.
Right. Okay, so we have a little bit of our liquid in here. Now, I gave you measurements on the recipe, but this one works better by eye. You're just gonna have to kind of play with it a little bit until you get the consistency we're looking for. So we start off with a little bit of liquid, and then I'm adding frozen bananas in here. Frozen bananas also.
So that's one of your soluble fiber fruits. Again, helps soaks up and slows down transit. So we've included that in this recipe as well.
Yeah. If you don't like bananas, I apologize because they're delicious.
But you can use cherries,
Yeah.
mangoes.
Yeah.
Again, these are ones that are soluble fibers as well.
Yeah. So banana goes in. I'm going to add just a few dates for sweetness.
Yeah. And we find that sometimes for people experiencing diarrhea, high amounts of sugar, like coming from, let's say, fruit juices or pop, soda, that could actually make diarrhea worse. So getting the natural sugars from fruit is beneficial. I will say though, so here we're using dates. It is a dried fruit, which it would be on the caution side for those who are experiencing diarrhea specifically. So you want to kind of be careful. You could replace it with maple syrup or honey, because generally those are kind of sometimes could be better for those experiencing diarrhea, but it is a natural sweetener, so we wanted to showcase that.
So a little bit of vanilla. We're going to add just a touch of cinnamon. Again, we're kind of going for that oatmeal, breakfast vibe. This just tastes better than oatmeal, I think. So,
Yeah.
So that goes in, and that's it. And then we're going to fit the lid and turn it on. Hold on. And so what I'm looking for is the way it turns. If it breaks down pretty easily, then I don't need to add any more liquid. I might need to add a little bit more frozen fruit, frozen banana, frozen cherry, whatever I'm using. If it's not turning at all, can just add a little bit more liquid. So we're almost there. So I might want to push it down one more time, but to kind of show you where we're at here is like this kind of ice cream, soft serve. So that's sort of what we're looking at that point. Yeah, exactly. And it has some of those like little bits of the date in there, which is nice and tasty.
Yeah.
So at that point there, we can set it in the freezer or serve it like this, or if you want to set it in the freezer just to firm up a little bit, you can do that as well.
Yeah. And so again, there are dates in here. So depending on how severe your diarrhea is, you may want to not use the dried fruit. The banana can actually be the sweetening agent that you just simply use.
All right, so this one I let it sit a little bit longer so you can see how it's firmed up a little bit more. It's a little more scoopable. I'm gonna go for the tri-scoop on this one. All right, so that is the oatmeal ice cream. And then I have just some toasted oats. Again, this is the chefy stage, right? So just some regular oats with cinnamon toasted just on top, like that. And that's the oatmeal ice cream. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah.